In 2019, Bianca Devins was a 17-year-old girl living in Utica, New York, with her family. She had plans for her future, intending to study psychology after graduation. In April of 2019, she met a man, someone she considered a friend, someone she believed she could trust. That was until a fun night out ended in a brutal manner, which the perpetrator plastered all over social media, in a final indignity to his victim. This is the tragic case of Bianca Devins. Hello my friends, how is everyone today? I hope you are all well. Before we get into the case, I just want to run through the usual disclaimer. We discuss true crime cases involving domestic abuse and domestic homicide on this channel. If this isn't the kind of content you're after, thanks for stopping by. Please know that everything I present here is just information that I've found online and my own opinions, so please always do your own research and draw your own conclusions. If you find this content valuable, I hope you will consider hitting those like and subscribe buttons because it helps to push these videos out to more people. And by doing so, together we can spread awareness of the warning signs of domestic abuse that people may otherwise overlook. That is ultimately why I cover these cases. So with all that being said, let's get into it. Growing up, Bianca had a spirited personality. She was never one to sit by idly if there was an injustice being perpetrated in her vicinity. Her father, Mike, was known to be emotionally abusive. Bianca's mother, Kim, had fallen pregnant when she was only 17, so this was not an ideal situation. But as Bianca grew, she'd call her father out on the way he treated her mother, and in time, also of his treatment of her little sister. She was fiercely protective. However, the once outgoing and confident girl seemed to fade when she entered middle school. Bianca suddenly became anxious and shy in social situations, to the point where it was difficult for her to leave the house at times. She retreated from the world. She had a handful of friends, but when she wasn't at school, she spent most of her time online. Bianca's mum, Kim, says it was like the time she spent online was to escape her mental struggles. Bianca was in a number of online communities, working to alleviate her feelings of isolation. It was here that she began to be harassed by a number of incels. On top of this, she was also being bullied by students at school, and this also continued online. No wonder she was struggling, the poor darling. In these online communities, she became what's known as an e-girl, a sort of edgy internet aesthetic. She loved anime and created different profiles on platforms like Tumblr, Snapchat, Instagram, Discord, and 4chan. And with this began to build a modest following. Of course, being the pretty young lady that she was, she attracted a number of male followers, known as orbiters, according to a 2019 article from Rolling Stone. She met at least one of them in person, and early on they had a relationship. Kim says this was a toxic pairing and spiraled when Bianca finally broke up with him. This man, who was 18 when they met, posted revenge porn of Bianca online, who at the time was 15 and had not been aware that he'd recorded them having sex. Kim and Bianca went to the police and filed charges of the revenge pornography and child pornography. This man, and I'm calling him this man because his name has largely been kept out of this case, and I'm following suit. However, what he did when he found out about these charges does have me wondering if he deserves this anonymity. He told Bianca that even though the charges were an accurate representation of what he'd done, facing them would ruin his life. And if she continued with them, he would kill himself and leave a note blaming her. Yeah, he's a peach. So essentially, he guilted Bianca into dropping the charges. Her mother was furious and wanted to continue with the charges, but Bianca had made up her mind. Then, it was only days later that Bianca and this man reconciled and resumed their relationship. Kim was beside herself, and she wasn't having it. She did the only thing she could think of and put Bianca on a person in need of supervision hold, which meant Bianca had to wear an ankle monitor and was under house arrest. She had specific places she could go and limited times she could go out. However, after cutting the ankle monitor off and trying to run away to be with this boyfriend, and after many arguments, tears and pleading, Bianca was moved to St. Anne Institute, which is a mental facility in Albany, New York. It was here that Bianca found the help she needed. She connected with a therapist. Her mental health improved and she began planning for her future. After the impact therapy had made in her life, she wanted to study psychology at Mohawk Valley Community College. When she came home, she also began reconnecting with her friends. Life was really looking so much brighter for Bianca, and I can only imagine how relieved Kim must have felt seeing her come out the other side of this dark time. Bianca met Brandon Clark in April of 2019. Brandon, who was 21, was also another orbiter. He reached out to connect with her on Instagram. They became fast friends. They seemingly had a lot in common. You have to question that just a smidge though, don't you? What does a 21-year-old man have in common with a 17-year-old girl? He'd done his homework though and reflected exactly what he thought Bianca would want. And despite having hooked up a couple of times early on, Bianca, who had just turned 17, let him know her sights were firmly set on college. She wasn't interested in getting into a relationship, and she told him so, in no uncertain terms. This didn't seem to deter Brandon though. He wanted more than friendship. He wanted a relationship with Bianca, and he began to refer to himself as her boyfriend around her mum, even though Bianca had set this boundary. This is a bit of a red flag to me, and that may just be because I'm closing in on 50 and have let too many people walk all over me in my life. So these days, if I have anyone push a limit or a boundary I've set, I'm more likely to walk away than to give a second chance. Think about it. This person, in this case, wants to be in a relationship with her and yet doesn't care enough about her to hear when she says she doesn't want that. That's a person who's not going to respect anything else you do or don't want. When they tell you or show you who they are, believe them and don't be afraid to walk away because you deserve better. And if you've had the conversation more than once, they will not change. Believe what they're showing you, that they don't care enough about you to care about what you want. Okay, that's the end of my rant. Brandon was born into a tumultuous household. His father, Jason Clark, was an abusive man. Brandon's childhood was, by all accounts, traumatic. In 2010, when Brandon was 12, his father held his mother, Michelle, hostage for over 10 hours. He beat her, and many of those hours were spent with a knife to her throat while he screamed that he was going to kill her, then himself. This situation was sparked by his belief that his wife was cheating on him. Luckily, Michelle's mother was staying with them at the time, and when he began beating his wife, Michelle's mother ran in to call 911, only for Jason to rip the phone from the wall. She did manage to escape though, and fled to a neighbour's house to call for help. By the time police arrived, Jason had barricaded the doors. After hours of beatings and threats, Jason broke down crying that he hadn't meant to hurt her so badly, finally releasing her after 10 hours. Jason was arrested and charged with felony assault, criminal possession of a weapon, unlawful imprisonment, aggravated criminal contempt, misdemeanor menacing, and obstructing government administration. There is no record of whether Brandon was in the home while all this took place, but even if he wasn't, it went on for 10 hours. He would have been aware of it, and it really doesn't sound as though it was likely to have been a one-off incident. When Brandon was arrested, his father was quoted as saying that he had raised his son right. So I guess that gives us a bit of insight into the cocktail of yuck that was within Brandon. Both of Brandon's parents spent time in prison, leaving him to be placed into foster care. People who knew Brandon thought things were a little off with him, even going as far as to say that from the time he was 16, he seemed sexually interested in minors. He was enthralled with Lolicon, which is a Japanese media that focuses on young girls romantically and sexually. He had read thousands of manga which had sexually explicit drawings of young girls. His friends realized it wasn't just about what he liked to read when they found out that he was talking to and grooming a 12-year-old girl online, asking her to be his girlfriend and trying to get her to send him sexual images of herself. His friends confronted him on this, and he brushed them off, saying, "You're best not to concern yourself with what I do or what I will do, because you won't like what you see." His friends cut contact with him. However, they don't seem to have contacted authorities about what they'd discovered. This was when he was 16. My God, that is terrifying. He met Bianca when he was 21, meaning he had had many years to become very good at getting young girls to trust him. Once Brandon had made contact with Bianca, he made it his mission to become an integral part of her life. He liked and commented on every post, always saying how beautiful she was. She would reassert her boundary that they were just friends. As soon as Brandon saw that Bianca was online, he would be DMing her. When Brandon met Kim, she thought he was a nice, polite guy, but she could see that he was way more interested in Bianca than she was in him. So Kim was the one who told Bianca to be very clear with Brandon and to maybe even not hang out with him so much, so he could find someone who would reciprocate his feelings. Bianca assured Kim that she had been clear with him, that he was fine with them just being friends. That's what he'd said. Bianca asked her mom if she could go with Brandon to a Nicole Dollinger concert in New York City. Kim agreed that Bianca could go because she trusted Brandon. In the weeks leading up to the concert, Bianca had been talking with a guy on Discord, Alex, and he seemed like a genuine and sweet person, someone Bianca wanted to get to know better. She still wasn't after a serious relationship, but she was definitely interested in Alex. He was going to the concert and they arranged to meet there. Bianca wanted to be honest, so she told Brandon of her plan to meet up with Alex. She was honest about wanting to get to know him better and asked if he minded or if he preferred that she just go by herself. He assured her that it was fine. However, it would seem, judging by how the night ended, it was not fine. Not fine at all. In the days leading up to the concert, there were troubling signs on Brandon's Instagram that Bianca no doubt missed because she wasn't obsessed and religiously checking his posts like he was hers. On the day of the concert, while Bianca was no doubt excited to see the artist and for her trip to the city as well as the potential that meeting up with Alex presented, Brandon changed his Instagram profile to read his date of death being that day, with the quote, "Just know I feel no pain now." He also posted a quote from the movie Fight Club reading, "This is your life and it's ending 1 minute at a time." Along with these strange outward signs, Brandon was also making private arrangements. He'd been Googling disturbing things like how to find and cut a carotid artery and how to incapacitate someone. He also put a knife, rope and a tarp in his car. Before picking Bianca up on the night of the concert, he added his laptop and hard drive, along with a lighter and spray paint to the items in his car. On the 13th of July, 2019, Bianca and Brandon headed into New York City. As they drove away, he assured Kim that he would look after Bianca and bring her home safely. Bianca chatted to both Brandon and her friends online as they drove into the city. By all accounts, she was happy and excited. When they arrived, they met up with Alex, and throughout the night, Bianca wound up kissing and holding hands with Alex. She seemed to be aware that this angered Brandon. She messaged a friend saying that she had kissed Alex twice and that her friend was really mad because he saw them kiss. She wasn't aware how mad Brandon was, though, even at the thought of her meeting up with Alex. That is, after all, when he had begun planning for more than just a night out. On the way home, Bianca fell asleep in the back seat of Brandon's car. While Bianca slept and he drove them towards home, he took a photo of the road ahead. He captioned it, "Here comes hell. It's redemption, right?" He proceeded to take a sleeping Bianca to a dead-end road. He began filming himself and got out of the car, went around and retrieved the knife from the boot. He got back in the car and woke Bianca up. He began asking Bianca about her kissing Alex, and she said that she was sorry, that she hadn't wanted to upset him, but then went on to reiterate that she and Brandon, weren't together, that she doesn't see him that way. She also reminded him that they had discussed all of this on a number of occasions and that she hadn't changed her mind. At this point, Brandon struck Bianca in the face, causing her to fall backwards. This was stunning to Bianca, as it would be. This was supposed to be her friend. He'd never been violent to her before. She was confused, and she said that she would just walk the rest of the way home. Before she could get out of the vehicle, Brandon attacked her with his knife, slicing her throat. This was all being recorded, and those that have seen the incident say Bianca was completely taken off guard. She didn't even have a chance to fight back or defend herself. At this point, Brandon turned the camera off, but apparently turned it back on immediately to capture the 17-year-old's last breath. He then went on to take photos of her lifeless body. After murdering Bianca, Brandon set the scene as he had apparently planned. He played a song on repeat, Test Drive, by Joji, which is about a relationship in which one person is more invested than the other. He spray painted "May You Never Forget Me" on the ground, a reference to a series of dark Japanese comic books that he and Bianca had read together. Then, at 6:03 a.m. on July 14th, he logged on to post a gruesome photo of Bianca's brutalized body to Discord, and under this picture he wrote, "Sorry fuckers, you're going to have to find someone else to orbit." Then he posted these photos to his Instagram with a caption reading, "I'm so sorry, Bianca." People seeing these images didn't know what to make of them, thinking it was a sick joke with images from a movie or something. But when asked where the pictures were from, Brandon replied, "From my car. I fucked Bianca, dumbass." Once people realized that this was indeed real, they began calling the police. However, there was something else going on as well. The images of Bianca were going viral all over social media, to the point that Bianca's family were alerted to them before police had a chance to notify them of her death. That is absolutely horrific. I cannot imagine. Even though concerned people were calling the police, they had no idea where Bianca was until the police got a call from Brandon himself. He told them where he was and made sure to tell them that he was an organ donor. He then laughingly joked with the 911 operator saying, "I have to go because I have to do the suicide part of the murder-suicide." By the time officers got to the scene, Brandon had posted several more photos of Bianca's body online. Now, surprise, he survived. That would be because when he got off the phone, he did not enact the suicide part of his plan. He, in fact, proceeded to start a fire by his car to burn his laptop and hard drive. Then he laid down on the tarp to wait for police. Yes, he was still recording all this, and even though he made a big display of the intent to take his own life, he waited for the police to arrive before he made any attempt. His attempt was a cut to his throat as an officer approached. However, he seemed to stop once he realized how much it hurt. So after slashing himself with a knife, he took a selfie of his wound and posted it to his Instagram story with the caption, "Ashes to ashes." And again, yes, no surprise, he survived. And after his wound was treated, he was taken into custody. And all the while, Bianca's images continued to flood social media. There were discussions and polls on whether or not she deserved it. Some claiming she had led him on, running rife all over the internet. People were cruelly sending these pictures to her family members, including her little sister. They also posted them to her mum's Facebook page. I really can't understand what is wrong with people. The depravity is astounding. When police tried to question Brandon, he was more interested in how the media was covering the case and how the world was reacting. It became obvious that his intent was to gain notoriety from killing Bianca. This was clearly his plan all along, evidenced by his documentation of everything online. According to various articles, Brandon had killed Bianca to show that he wasn't a beta male orbiter and that he was strong and took what he wanted, that he wasn't about to be rejected. However, that was pretty much how the media ended up characterizing him, as a pathetic, stupid, and pedophilic man who couldn't take no for an answer. That fits. When he went to court on the 29th of July 2019, he initially pleaded not guilty to the charge of second-degree murder, which is pretty ridiculous considering he brought all the items he used to kill Bianca to the scene. He posted photos of her dead body online, also confessed via a live stream to being the one to have killed her. Also, can I just say, second-degree murder? What? There was obviously premeditation. It was also depraved and unusually cruel. What on earth needs to happen to warrant first-degree murder charges? The trial was set for... Trial was set for early 2020, but before it began, he changed his plea to guilty, saying he wanted to spare Bianca's family having to sit through a trial or seeing the photos and hearing details of her death. Bit late now, but okay. However, a short 5 months later, he changed his mind again and wanted to plead not guilty. The court had to determine whether he could do so before he was sentenced. Brandon told the court that his lawyer pressured him into pleading guilty, but his lawyer testified and outlined the number of visits he'd made to prison to speak to Brandon, and that he had, in fact, urged him to go to trial in the first place. It would seem part of Brandon's change of mind may have come from the unexpected support he received from some members of the public known as incels. Now, according to the Oxford Dictionary, an incel is a member of an online community of young men who consider themselves unable to attract women sexually, typically associated with views that are hostile towards women and men who are sexually active. End quote. Basically, incels are individuals who have not had, well, not individuals, men, boys, whatever, who have not had any sort of sexual activity for a long period, not by their own choice, and because of this, some have developed a hatred of women. They try, and often fail to win the attention of women who are referred to as Stacys. Stacys are women who are attractive and who incels believe are unattainable. Brandon was praised for standing up for incels, even though he wasn't one. These guys don't like rejection. Seriously, I can't understand why they can't find anyone to be with when they can't see women as individuals. They just clump them into a category that is unattainable, then blame them for that. Maybe a little self-reflection would help your cause. Anyway, the judge seemed to recognize what was going on and said, quote, "It seems like in the beginning you were focused on the family, the pain you caused them, and somewhere in the interim you started to focus on yourself. That is what was confusing to everyone. You were more worried about yourself than Bianca." End quote. The court then determined Brandon's guilty plea was valid, and on the 16th of March 2021, he was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. Brandon spoke at his sentencing saying, quote, "I hate myself for what I did. I'm so sorry that I put everyone through this. I'm sorry that I put Bianca through this. I wish I could apologize to her and just apologize and take it back. But," end quote. Pathetic. There's really nothing else to say about him. He's pathetic. This was not the end of the stress and heartache for Bianca's family, though. In July of 2021, the family sued the Oneida County District Attorney's Office for distribution of child pornography. According to the lawsuit, Bianca's family had found out from a producer of a documentary about Bianca that they'd been sent footage of her murder as well as video of her having sex. They were also given access to nude photos of Bianca. Of course, given that Bianca died when she was 17, all constituted child pornography. If this wasn't bad enough, these images and videos were also allegedly sent to a YouTuber who had been covering the case. This YouTuber was also in contact with Brandon. The lawsuit alleged Kim discovered that the channel A&E, the CBS program 48 Hours, and the content creator for YouTube were all sent these files by McNamara's office. In September of 2022, this case was dismissed without prejudice, meaning that the family could file again. There were some worrying things that came out of this filing, though. The first being that the district attorney's office claimed they were complying with the Freedom of Information laws. However, Judge Sotheby disagreed with the county's assertion that District Attorney Scott McNamara's office had been complying with the state Freedom of Information law when releasing the footage, noting, Quote, "This argument ignores the fact that the distribution of child pornography is expressly outlawed." End quote. Yeah, something you'd hope that the district attorney would be aware of. Adam Massey, who represented Bianca Devins' estate, said, despite the dismissal, Judge Sotheby clearly conveyed the court's disapproval of Anita County's actions and arguments. Judge Sotheby flatly rejected Anita's argument that they were immune from liability for disseminating child sexual abuse material because they sought to comply with New York's Freedom of Information laws. Massey added that a dismissal of claims due to Bianca being already dead was concerning because, as he said, it could lead to grounds for dismissing cases such as ones involving revenge porn, where the person depicted is deceased. Why is this something that even needs to be debated? If a person is dead, they have not consented to having their private images shared anywhere. Why would this not just be an automatic and logical no? Big fat bad no, especially when it's a child. I know Lady Justice is blind, but surely she still has common sense, right? Anyway, at this time, the Devins family has not refiled. However, Kim went on to start a campaign for a bill that would hold social media companies accountable for any violent or graphic content they allow to be posted and to remain on their platforms. It would make the spreading of violent and graphic images a criminal offence and require social media platforms to develop software that would detect them before they are uploaded and shared. They would also have to establish a crisis department to respond in real time to victims' families, in addition to asking for social media platforms to be more responsive and to be held responsible for what's uploaded to their site. The bill also requests that ownership and control of minor child's social media accounts should automatically transfer to their parents or legal guardians in the event of a minor's death or incapacitation. This, along with many other important things that our laws need to cover with the technological changes in the world, are laid out in this bill. All Kim and her family can do is hope that some positive change can come out of the tragedy they've had to live through. Bianca's law was signed into effect by New York Governor Kathy Hochul in December of 2022. There is still a petition on change.org that I will list below because this law should not be confined to one state. It should be everywhere. But that is all I have for you today, my cherubs. If you are finding this content valuable, please do all the YouTubey things like subscribe, share, and hit the bell so you don't lose my little channel. Please leave your thoughts about this horrific case in the comments box below. As always, there's a list of resources below if the content of this case has raised any concerns for you regarding your own relationship or that of a loved one. Thanks for being here, and until next time, please take care of yourselves and be kind to one another.